Southern Expressions is made possible in part by a grant from the Mississippi Arts Commission, your statewide arts partner, celebrating 40 years of supporting Mississippi's creative spirit.
Welcome to Southern Expressions. On tonight's show, an artist who sees more in empty spaces than most people find in a crowded room, and a painter who gets inspiration from the edge. Hello, I'm Ron Brown. Anthony DiFatta paints landscapes, cityscapes, and abstract. He gets his inspiration from a number of sources, but he says his most important artistic relationship is with the Mississippi State Hospital's Stubbs Homeless Program.
I get my ideas from a lot of different ways, things that I see in other people's artwork. I'm a big believer in studying other people's work, just like a musician wouldn't jump out and start writing their own music before they really get the basics down. So by looking at other people's color and other people's composition, everyone's sort of influenced by their surroundings. And I guess as far as my representational work goes, mostly what I paint is what I've been around. The city of Jackson, driving through all the highways and small roads in Mississippi and seeing all the fields and Mississippi landscapes, spending a lot of time in New Orleans. I love doing all the buildings in New Orleans. It's a wonderful city to paint and to paint in. I'm all about experimenting with different things. Don't ever want to sort of find my one thing that I'm going to do over and over and be known for. So I may switch from doing a series of landscapes or cityscapes or still lives, and then like right now I'm working on some large abstract paintings for a show at the Mississippi Arts Center next year. Sometimes I work in cycles or series where I'll work on just one thing for a long time, and sometimes I'll have a lot of different things going simultaneously. I'm always experimenting and trying different things, but visually, and this is very important to me, I try to be very formal with the surface. Whether I'm painting an abstract or a still life landscape, even an illustration, I try to think about the visual strength of the piece first, because if it's not strong visually and formally with using good composition, color that makes sense, everything working together and in some ways contrasting, if that's not working, then it just doesn't really matter how pretty it is or how much it looks like my Aunt Susie's cat or whatever.
And joining us now in the studio is Anthony DiFatta. Thank you for joining us on Southern Expressions. We appreciate you coming in. And you were telling me a little bit earlier that sometimes you have trouble convincing people that you're actually from the South.
Well, that was when I was in the military and stationed in Southern California. And I guess the perception that a lot of America has about Southerners and Mississippians in specific is maybe based on stereotypes. And so hey, where are you from? Well, I'm from Hattiesburg, Mississippi originally, and I grew up in Louisiana. No, come on, really.
You had trouble convincing people. Well, where did your art training begin, and where?
Well, I've drawn since I can remember. I've always loved to draw. I never really thought anything serious about it, that I would do anything with it. And after I got out of the military and started school at Southern, I took a few art history classes, drawing classes, sculpture classes. I even thought I was going to be a sculpture major, and I took my first painting class and said, this is it. I just fell in love with painting.
Just that at a college
And I was
age.
about 24 at the time, because it was after I was out of the military. So I didn't start painting until I was 24.
Mm-hmm. And you started painting seriously and calling it a career at what time?
I was actually a graphic designer for a while. I ended up working for WorldCom, or MCI WorldCom, as a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. And with the encouragement of some local artists that I became friends with, I started showing my work in galleries, and had a salon show in New York, and then was picked up by a small gallery in New York, and I thought, well, maybe I can make a go of this.
Mm-hmm. Do you specialize in any certain type of thing? I know I've seen some of your work, and it seems like there's a lot of landscapes or cityscapes. Is that I don't want to pigeonhole you, but is that safe to say that that's where you at least specialize for right now?
Well, I do work in series. I guess it's my temperament. I'll work on one thing for a long time, and when I feel like I'm not learning from it or growing from it, I'll go to something else. Say maybe I'll go from landscape or cityscape to abstract, just non-representational. I actually started out doing mostly figurative and still life work, so I like to come back around and apply what I've learned from painting abstracts to my cityscapes or to my still lifes.
To find out that they're not all that dissimilar in the
No,
end.
and my visual problem is the same. I'm always working with color and formal composition. I'm not really, even when I'm painting something that exists in reality, I'm not trying to create something realistic.
Okay, well, let's take a look at a couple of your paintings. You can tell us about that. I think the first one we have,
Okay.
you're telling me you painted this not literally, but from memory.
Right, this is, I've spent a lot of time on the coast. My wife's from the coast. I grew up in Slidell, and this is sort of based on memories I have of being out on the Gulf in a boat in the summer, going fishing with my dad, or going out to the island or something. And I'd been thinking about the water and the sky a lot after, this is pretty recently, after Hurricane Katrina, when I did that piece.
And it's called?
It's called Before the Storm.
Before. Okay, and this is more of an illustration?
This is a lot of my paintings kind of blur the line between, you know, what I would call fine art and illustration. This is obviously leaning more towards the illustration side of it. This I did to enter into the Orr O'Keefe regional invitation show down on the coast a few years ago.
Now this one right here is you said that you dealt in abstract, and this was this specifically for somebody, or I know it was eventually used by somebody? And
Right, this was sort of an experiment. I'd been doing small abstracts, and I came up with this idea of this line that kept curling around on itself and then dividing up the canvas with the other lines crossing over it and kind of alternating the color throughout and letting the drips just stay in there. I wanted to create something that had a sense of depth and flatness and overlapping. This piece, I think, is actually like 4 feet tall by 9 feet wide.
oh, it is.
So it's a pretty large piece, and I just had this rough idea where I wanted it to go, and then about halfway through got aggravated and just said, I don't care, I just need to finish this painting, and then that's when it started working.
That's
When
the
I
way it
stopped
works
thinking about
sometimes.
it so much.
Is that it? You took yourself out of it. That was very cool. Like on the music vein as well, you say you're a big blues fan, and this is obviously a bluesman in Delta Cottonfield.
Yeah, I love blues music, and it's funny, I didn't really appreciate it growing up in the South until I lived out in California, and then I started listening to it, and you know, it's kind of, you don't appreciate your own backyard until you're somewhere else. So when I came back, I spent a lot more time studying it and listening to it, and the imagery of the blues and the sort of the mythology and some of the legends. I really like that kind of stuff.